Hi everybody, my name is David and this is Garage Talk, where regardless of the distance we are always social. We're being clever now. This was Rick's decision because we don't have social distancing anymore. Anyways, welcome back. We've had a bit of a hiatus. If you couldn't tell by my rambling, I'm a little out of practice. But we are here today to talk about an amazing project that is coming out very soon. It is next in the Scene in Eugene project, and it is called Driftwood. The film is written, directed, and starring Sara Blythe.
Hi, I'm Sara.
You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. David says I'm awesome.
It's true. If I say it, it's true. We are also lucky enough to be have one of the other stars, Zoe Wassman, playing Emma.
Hi, David. My name's Zoe. I'm the co-star of this film with Sara Blythe, and it was an honor and a privilege.
I believe you 100%.
It was really sincere. Could you
It
tell?
was good. I like it. We also have the cinematographer of the film, Daniel Martinez.
Hi, I'm Daniel Martinez. I was the cinematographer of the film.
I feel like you guys are just saying everything I'd say. That's what's happening here.
It felt right.
This is going to make the question and answer section real weird, guys.
That depends on what you say.
David Mort's cool. And then also we have an extra special guest on Garage Talk, someone we have not had before, either their role or the person themselves. So with us, the composer of the score of Driftwood, Christopher Golden.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Chris Golden. I worked on the score and the audio recording as well.
It's true. So we're going to start the show like we always start the show, which is making Sara talk to us a little bit about the story of the film and kind of what inspired it.
Okay, like story-wise, the basic gist of it is that there are these two girls who are living together. They're squatting in a house together. They're kind of friends of circumstance, I guess. It's a very toxic relationship, and there's a lot of secrets that kind of come out as it moves along. As for inspiration, it was really Rick that kind of started the story at the very beginning. Like, I don't even know, was that 3 years ago now? A very long time ago. Rick wrote like a beta version of Driftwood, and then I was supposed to act in it, and then some time passed, and then he came back to me with it, and then I ended up writing and directing it, and also was in it still. So it's had a very long road. Yeah.
Well, so what was the aspect as a director that really kind of got you interested in the idea to do it?
Being a young woman, I thought it would be really interesting to like focus on the relationship between these two young women. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, I like character-driven things. So that's kind of what drew me to it a lot.
Cool. And so you come originally as an actor to the role, and then the time kind of passes by, and then there's this point where you go, you and Rick are having a conversation, and you go, did he recommend that you direct it? Did you kind of come to that idea, or what was that like?
Yeah, we were sitting in a coffee shop, and I was under the impression that it was like we're reviving Driftwood, are you still interested in the role meeting? I'm just sitting here, and then he goes, so do you want to write and direct it? Is basically how it went. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. And then I did.
Cool.
So
now, as you were writing it, did you have other actors in mind? And when you were writing it, were you still planning on playing Wendy, or did that shift over time?
The process of casting Emma, there was like some back and forth there, but in the end, like, there's really nobody I would have wanted for it except for Zoe, because she's so incredible, and it was just really a privilege getting to work with her. And as for myself, I always just kind of went forward assuming that I would still do Wendy, although there were plenty of parts where I was like, okay, this was a mistake a little bit. 3 things is a little too much. But I'm glad I did it in the end. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Zoe, as when you were auditioning for Emma, did you know that you were kind of who Sara had been thinking about?
No, I didn't. Actually, a few of my other friends auditioned as well, so that was really exciting for me, to have them get the same opportunity. And honestly, auditioning with Sara maybe I couldn't have envisioned it going a different way because it just flowed so well. But I know she did have, a lot of dilemma because I know the other actresses and they're phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal people that I actually learned from in college at different points. So I think really, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but really, like, I had kind of a relationship to the screenplay, from the first moment that I read it, and I brought a lot of that into the audition. And I kind of counted on that to get me the role, in a sense, because I knew that I could work well with Sara. And I was excited to. I'd never actually gotten to work with her beyond Feathers, and we were co-stars in that, but really I was a much smaller role than in Driftwood.
Well, and I could be wrong on this, but I think was Driftwood one of the first kind of bigger roles that you had?
Yeah, that was definitely my first co-star, co-lead role, for sure. Although it was an honor to be on Megan John's Feathers as well, also a scene in Eugene episode. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
So what was that process like for you then? Especially since kind of the character, you felt like, or I guess as the process was going on, you found out that Sara was thinking about you as this character was being written, and you have a different type of character arc throughout that film. So a little bit in terms of like your process as an actor, kind of going into that, what was that like for you?
I got asked at one point whether or not I was method acting, and I was like, well, if I was going to method act in this, it would just be like being really mean to Sara all day on set. So mine was not that approach at all. She was great at running the rehearsals, quite honestly, gave me a lot of great direction. It was her first time as a director, and my first time being truly directed as a lead. So for both of us, it was such a learning experience, and it was so comforting to go through it together, I think. Like, we've worked on several projects since then together.
Got it. Excellent. Very cool. And then kind of the gentleman bookending either side of this discussion. I have to confess, I was completely inaccurate. So we had Shannon Swords on the show before, and he had did composition for Feathers. So that is inaccurate. But we've never had a Chris Golden on before. And this is
it's a unique experience for everyone.
That's right. Well, and kind of this question is maybe both for Chris and for Daniel, which was as you both started working on this project. Musically, the shots line up. So the music and the shots line up very nicely in this project. And one of the questions I had as I watched it was, how much communication were you guys having in pre-production versus post-production on the music score?
Well, so a very inspirational story for me as far as the creation of score has to do with the scoring of the film Sorcerer, which was directed by William Friedkin and scored by Tangerine Dream. Very interesting. He gave him the script way ahead of time. He's like, yeah, just take a look at it. We'll come back later. We'll figure it out. They come back in like a month. They're like, yeah, we're done. We scored it. They never saw a second of footage. So that is kind of something that I think is unique, because then when you work that way, there can be sort of a cogenesis between the soundtrack and the film. Like, the way that the film is cut together can match the way that the score has been composed, and the way that the score is composed is directly related to the film. Yeah. So that was an important part of my process in this project.
Cool. And then, Daniel, did you go into shots sort of thinking about, because you did the editing as well on the film, so as you were composing shots, as you and Sara were kind of figuring out your shots and composing them together, were you cognizant sort of where the score was going to be kind of coming in and being laid within the script, or was that something that you really found in the edit?
I mean, realistically, Chris just killed it with the score as far as I was concerned, and I honestly didn't hear the score until we were done cutting it. And then when he laid the score into the film, it just, to me anyway, it fit, and it was really cool. I got to see him work on a lot of. It was the first time I had seen somebody create like that. Mm-hmm. It was just, he had this. It was just cool. It was just, he was there and in it, and then again, like I said, it fit the moments. And there was times where I was like, well, gosh, I don't know. It feels like it should be this. He's like, no, trust me. And then I listened to it again, watching it back with the film, and I was like, no. You were right. I don't know what I was talking about, and really, it was just full access to however he wants to do it, and he just did such an amazing job. It was a pleasure.
You flatter me, sir.
So and then Sarah, was that kind of score-wise, was that what you were thinking about as that script was getting worked on? Because,
not at all.
well, and in all honesty, when you watch it, the score, I think, is very different than I think a standard approach would be to this type of a film. Which, I agree with Daniel, it works very, very well. But it's, as you're kind of sitting there watching it, because to me the score kind of comes in and out of it, and it plays almost like another character in the script, or an aspect of the cinematography even, but it's this kind of presence. But again, as I watched it the first time, and I watched these like a couple times to kind of get an idea of what we're going to talk about. And one of the things I noticed was that this score is not what I would have thought about in the first place, but as I watched it, it fits and works really well. So Sarah, what was that like for you when you first started? Like when you first heard it, and you're like, "Oh, this is not what I was thinking of."
It was a little bizarre in a really good way. A really good way. Because it was, of course, like not at all like what I had in mind when I was writing it, or even kind of like through the process of filming. But then, again, kind of like how we've been saying, I heard it, and I was like, oh yeah. Oh, this works. Like, I feel like it definitely brought a something to the film that it needed. And honestly, it's like one of my favorite parts about it now, like looking back and watching it and listening to it. It's just, I don't know, something about it just fits really well, and Chris killed it in
everyone's
creating
so nice.
that like atmospheric kind of vibe with it. It was really awesome.
So, as you're working on this project, one of the things that I think is really important to kind of talk about is really confined spaces that you're working in. Not for all of it, but there's a good chunk of it that takes place in a pretty tight space. So let's talk about how that worked.
Well, no, I mean it's definitely true. We kind of talked about that a little bit. It was a tight, small space with white walls, and we were literally on top of each other. It was really challenging trying to compose a shot when you're looking at the same spot every single time. There was only so many places we can place the camera, only so many places we can get the mic. It was super challenging getting the mic in the right spot to avoid that kind of closed in echoey sound, and it was if it weren't for the fact that we had these two great, amazing actors delivering these lines, I probably would have just walked out the door. But it didn't matter where I pointed the camera as long as they were in it and they were delivering those lines the way they did. They owned it, and they sold it to the point where it just made it great, and it was really, really fun. It was a pleasure, and I feel so lucky to be able to have worked with these two and see them be these characters and own those roles. It was really, really cool, really exciting. So
Zoe was talking a little bit about the rehearsal process that she and Sarah went through to kind of find those characters and find their arcs and all of that kind of stuff. This question, I think, can be asked to both Chris and Daniel. Were you present at any of those rehearsals? And if so, did they sort of color and shape the ideas that you had going into the project?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I honestly don't think we were at their rehearsals.
I think we just kind of showed up to work on the first day, like, all right, let's get this in the bag.
There was a couple of test kind of shots that we had worked out, but yeah, I think really for the most part, they did it all together.
Yeah, it was the first time that you saw the scene when we were on set together?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Man, we hadn't even met yet. You must think I'm really mean.
Oh, I do. I still do. It still resonates.
All these months later.
Well, and so Zoe, that's a question. I'm always like, okay, spoilers, right? But you've said it a couple times, so I feel like I can ask the question and not be the one who. So you feel like your character maybe is maybe not the nicest to Sarah's.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, because I never got the sense as watching you as an actor that you were, kind of wringing your hand maniacal off of the person, right? Like, that doesn't come across at all.
No, I just evil laughed before the cameras went on. It was kind of a preemptive thing.
Is that your recommendation and advice to actors who want to play kind of mean characters? Just get all that.
Yeah, you've seen the Joker, right? It's all about the laugh. Come on. Honestly, I think that the piece is subtle. Mm-hmm. So, like, regardless of, like, whether I'm the antagonist or the protagonist or spoilers in general, everything is done with this subtle manipulation I think that's written in. It was intentional for us as actors to do that. And I think that it is true to human nature and relationships such as the one that's in this film.
So as an actor and you're approaching it, do you go at that character like, these are the things I want and these are the tactics I'm using to get them? And so there's not an emotional, like, you're not like placing judgment or blame or labels on the character. You're kind of going in and you're saying, well, these are the tactics I have available to me and these are the things she wants, and so this is how I do it.
You know, honestly, in the end, I would have to say yes, but mostly because the most important part of my performance was, and I think this is true for Sara and most actors who have a co-star that's as intimate as the relationship that we had, our performance is so dependent on the others. Like, if you're not listening and responding to what they're giving you and trying to make it a diverse and dynamic scene, it won't be.
Yep.
You know, and if two people who are the same are having a conversation, like, it's not great TV. So I would say, yeah, that was definitely a part of it, was just listening to my co-star and making decisions that I felt were true to the character and true to life, and really feeling it. Really, I have to say, like, if I was going to give a piece of advice, the moments that I liked of my own performance were the ones I saw myself relate with through my own eyes. It was like, wow, I can see what she is feeling and that it's real. And I don't want to feel tricked if I'm in the audience, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Kind of to that then same note, Sara, as you're directing, right, and acting in these scenes, I think the two questions that I have that kind of come off of that conversation for you is, what does that do in terms of, you know, you're in that moment with her, and so you're focused on the dynamic of the relationship. But as a director, is there a part of your brain that's partitioned off, and you're watching it and you're like, okay, I need to make sure I tell her X, Y, and Z on the next take? Or is that you just like, I'm in this moment and then we go watch take after we're done? Or what was that like?
It was definitely really hard because, yeah, like, I've never directed before, like, we've definitely mentioned, but I was so, like, worried about that part of it that was always taking up half of my mind. So in the times when I was trying to act, I was thinking about directing half of my brain, and then moments when I was trying to direct, I was thinking about acting in half of my brain. But honestly, I was very lucky to have Zoe, because there were so many times where I was just like, okay, no, that was good. I don't like have anything really I need to say about that. But also, it was a little tough because we would be acting and my brain would be like, oh, that was good, and it would take me out of it.
Just saying something devastating, you had a big smile.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So, yeah, that was
very, very cool. Chris, I think one of the other questions I have is, when you talked a little bit about sort of some of the inspiration you took into the process of kind of how you wanted to work on the piece. I've listened to your music before, and I like it quite a bit. When you were coming into this project, were you going, I'm going to try to create a certain sound that is reminiscent of the type of stuff I create, or does it become for you like how much of it is you coming through versus you as a musician trying to go, okay, this is my interpretation of this piece of storytelling, but from an auditorial area. I guess, does that make sense?
Yeah. So, the reason that I really wanted to do this project was because when I was reading the script, I was like, this is something that I can, like, the score can be in the ballpark of what I'm capable of creating, just in terms of, like, the physics of it. But beyond that, I really wanted to, as an ambient composer, what's very important to consider is operating principles. So, like, every time I approach a project, how I connect everything together, what instruments I'm using, sort of like how I'm thinking about the process of sound going from point A to point B is going to be different. That's part of the composition. So going into this, I really just kind of thought about this idea of Driftwood conceptually, just sort of thinking about like what that meant to me, but also like how I could connect that to the script, and then just kind of using those as themes to sort of guide my process. So you'll hear a lot of these kind of like open, washy type sounds that you hear, as well as a lot of noise and kind of like hazy tonalities. That's sort of like the ocean. And then you'll hear kind of contrasted against these kind of like sharp bits that are sort of kind of drifting through, like Driftwood. I wanted to sort of capture this this Driftwood idea, and I also kind of wanted to bring some tenderness to it, because I felt like there was, like, the story had tenderness in it, but maybe it wasn't, like, on the page as much. So I was like, you know, this is a story that, because if I'm being honest, when I first read it, I was like, this is pretty bleak, you know, but, like, it doesn't, I don't think it really, like, to me, it's like this idea of Driftwood. What I was thinking about is, like, it speaks to the tree that lived before, you know, there's, like, a trauma where the tree becomes Driftwood, but now it's in this state of kind of, like, acquiescence, you know, it's, like, moving through, it's, like, there's the real action of the trauma is sort of in the past, so now we're kind of, like, everything that we're seeing in Driftwood is, like, almost like an epilogue in a way, so I kind of, that was what I thought of, kind of like this just kind of drifting placidness.
I like that. That's really cool.
Good. Where did that come from?
I very much like that, Chris. Thank you. That's a phenomenal kind of like approach to think about it as a musician, and I think that's really cool. Because as a director, I tend to have that kind of same conversation as I'm looking at the script. What are the themes that we're talking about? What are the important pieces of this, and how do we navigate that into the entire story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do next is we have a clip from the film. Sarah, would you like to talk a little bit about what this clip was and kind of some of the process of shooting it?
Yeah. So in this clip, I'm trying to figure out like how to talk about it without saying too much. In this clip, Wendy and Emma have these big bags full of cans, which actually one of them is still in the trunk of my car. I never took it out. It's been
Just in case.
Many months. These big bags of cans that they've collected, and they're on their way to go, like, you know, turn them in for money. And they're walking along this road, and there's just some banter. A couple of lines about being a grandpa and looking like a grandpa, and, you know, stuff like that. That one, like, we were shooting, like, on the side of the road. It was a very narrow road, and we were on a corner, or, like, a curve. So it was always a lot of fun it was a really fun game to see, like, if a car was going to come around and, like, how fast we would have to get out of the way. And I'm pretty sure Daniel was standing in someone's driveway. But, yeah.
Just a little loitering.
You know, a little bit of light loitering.
It's good for
Yeah.
fun. It's great. Yeah. All right, well, let's have a watch.
No, I never said that. You're not listening to me. Stop twisting my words around.
But I swear.
You know, you can be a real asshole sometimes. Jesus, it's cold out here.
Really? Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah, 'cause you dress like my fucking grandpa. Can you go back and get my coat? I just can't take another go through the window.
Sure, I'm the grandpa.
So, Daniel, you do a lot of work in film, in video editing, and video photography. I had heard Driftwood was your first kind of cinematographer role in this capacity.
Yeah, so this was, I mean, this was a first for a lot of us, like we talked about. This was my first time doing any kind of a narrative piece like this. Mm-hmm. I had done a lot of client work, but never anything like this. And so it was super scary. I'm one of those people that to try and learn, I make commitments. And Rick says, "Hey, do you want to shoot a short film?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And then as it kind of drolled on, I was getting really nervous. And then I decided to go out and buy a new camera. And we shot on that camera. I had owned the camera for maybe a week. And so here I was doing something I'd never done before, on a camera I'd never worked with before, in a place that I'd never shot in anything like that before. It was super scary. Yeah. And then, you know, I hit record and got to, and I'm going to say super nice things about them the whole time because they made this so easy for me because I was every moment I set up that camera, I was nervous that, okay, people are going to look at this and go, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And then they would deliver, and I was like, okay, thank God. Because they're so good. And, looking back at it now, there was probably a lot of things that now, after, shooting another one, that I would have done differently. But, and that I think is, and I hopefully I'm not talking too much here, but that is probably one of the things that Sara and I struggled with the most with, and why this took so long to actually come out, because we were both really struggling with these inefficiencies, thinking, okay, it's not good enough, we could have done better, and we talked about it a ton. I think at one point we even said, let's just pretend like it just didn't happen, and then I started watching it again, and actually Rick was a huge motivation, because he's like, well, look, you got to get it out there, you guys worked hard on this. And then watching it again, and I'm just like, man, there are so many great moments in this, and just watching the way that it all came together, and then of course getting to work with this small crew of people, it was awesome, and I don't want to forget about that. And so getting it out there and really getting to let people see what we were feeling, what we were doing, I think it's a cool piece, and it deserves to see the light of day. And so yeah, it was scary though, to go back to your original question. Very, very nervous.
Well, it's really, part of the reason I asked the question is because, we just talked about how you were like doing some light loitering. And, in videography, that's not something you do a lot of. So that's great. I'm glad like I said, kind of at the start of this, I really, really do appreciate the camera and how it moves and how it fills the space. And, we can spend all day I can ask questions about things like small, minutiae detail, which I will probably do after we turn the camera off, because we're running low on time. But one of the things I also kind of wanted to do and kind of try to end the show on is, I think a lot of people who watch the show are people who are either making films kind of now, and they want to hear what other people's perspective of it is and how they can get into it. And then there is a group of people who are interested in making films and want to start that process. So, one of the last questions I like to ask, and we can start with Sara, and if anyone asks anything else they would like to chime in on, please. If you were to give advice to somebody who is looking to start the process of becoming a filmmaker in a capacity, what would you recommend?
Gosh, I know this is like the stupidest advice that everyone always says when people ask, but like really, it's just, you just have to do it. And it's scary, and you're scared of messing things up, and you're gonna mess things up. I know I messed so many things up, and like, even right now, like how Daniel, sorry, too many D names. Daniel was saying, like, we talked a lot about, like, oh, there are so many things I wish I would have done differently, and there's always going to be those things. Like, it's never going to be perfect, and I feel like if you, start to chase that, and that's unattainable, and then you're just going to get frozen in place, and you're never going to do anything. And if you're here in this community, there are so many other creatives here who love this work and want to do this work and want to help you and see you succeed, and it's a very, very lucky place to be an aspiring filmmaker, because nobody got paid for this. Rarely people get paid for this. It's just a bunch of people who love doing this work, and it's amazing. So if you're watching this and you want to get started and you're scared, then just, reach out to people. I'm sure you'll find someone who is in the exact same spot as you and wants to help you out. And it is so rewarding. It's amazing.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. I'd like to add on to what Sara was saying,
Please do.
because it's true. Community is how you make films for free.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteers who are really committed to a project and come with a lot of love to set is how you make things for free.
Yeah.
It's not the lack of money, it's the so much heart that we have here that's making things go right now. So yeah, if you want to be a part of this film community, join our Facebook group, do whatever you can, reach out to one of us who are here. Like, any of us would literally love to indoctrinate anyone into doing something that they really truly enjoy.
And like I said, make commitments.
Yeah.
Just if somebody asks, say yes, I'll do it, and then be scared out of your mind the whole time you're doing it. Make the commitment, and then you have to do it.
And know what you like, because you can always learn more technical stuff. You can always learn how to do something better. But what's really important is like understand your own taste, and like then it's really hard for you to get for you to get bad content, because you're shooting, you're like, this is what I like, this is what I want, or it's not. And if you use that as your operating principle, then not only will you get good content, but you'll be satisfied with what you get the whole way through.
No, excellent. That is phenomenal and lovingly supported. So that is excellent answer. Thank you guys so much. So when does Driftwood come out? When can we see it on YouTube?
August 15th.
Excellent.
Very soon.
So if you are not already subscribed to this channel as well as Scene in Eugene, make sure you hit the bell and subscribe and all that good nonsense so you get notifications, so you can, right down here, up in the areas, so you can get notifications when Driftwood comes out. Keep an ear out and an eye out on YouTube for August 15th. Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Again, really, really lovely project, and I'm glad that we got to sit down and chat about it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, David. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Wait, can I say one more
Yes.
thing? Have we stopped recording yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I just want to say, because I couldn't find a way to work it in earlier, I just want to thank everyone else who worked on this project who's not here right now, like Jonathan Farrell, Will Brock, and Tracy Miller, and Duncan. Oh, what's Duncan's last name?
Larson.
Duncan Larson. So much.
Yeah.
And Zoe's family, thank you for letting us film in your home. This would not have been possible without all of these people, and I wish we could have all of them here today to talk about it, because they were such an important part of it. But thank you, everybody. I love you very much.
And I think that's a great way to end the show. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.